Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gunters Universe. This is our brand new all-news edition. We're going to try to cover the weekly VR news here every Thursday night. Tonight is sort of a test for that, so bear with us through any of this newness, but we definitely want to expand the Gunters Universe shows into also a news program that's on Thursdays, kind of recap. And with me to do that is my co-host, Coznfx. He's also my good friend, Bob. How's it going, dude?
It's going well. It's going well.
There's been some interesting things going on in VR news this week. I'm just going to hand the reins over to you to kick it off.
All right. So good evening. I'm Coznfx, bringing you the top headlines in VR news from this past week. Our top story today, last week at the Wired Business Conference in New York City, Magic Leap founder Ronnie Abovitz with Lucasfilm CTO Rob Brutto and ILM X Lab Executive Creative Director John Gaeta announced a collaborative laboratory adjacent to the X Lab's office in San Francisco, where they'll be developing Star Wars-related content for the Magic Leap platform. It was also revealed that they'll be working together, that they've been working together for over a year. Along with the announcement, a mixed reality video was released on YouTube shown through the Magic Leap technology, starring C-3PO and R2-D2. So let's take a look at that video.
This is pretty exciting. Another Magic Leap video.
Okay.
Get one or two of those a year, I think. This one is pretty awesome.
Oh, might I have a word with you, please? I regret to report that due to unforeseen circumstances, we have not yet reached the desired arrangement with Jabba the Hutt regarding Captain Solo's death. An army of stormtroopers is searching for us. It can only be a matter of time before we are blasted into spare parts. I told you it was dangerous here. We have not yet completed the mission. How did we get into this mess? I really don't know how.
Yeah, so that is pretty awesome. I mean, it's kind of almost just so fitting to have Star Wars IP for your holograms, your
I know.
AR in your life. I mean, that's pretty epic. What did you think of this video?
Oh man, I'm so excited for this. I mean, I've been a Star Wars fan my entire life, so to finally see this technology being used with Star Wars franchises, like a kid's dream come true.
It's pretty fantastic. I mean, yeah, like we saw with the ILM Labs working on the Star Wars cave stuff. I mean, I think Deep Rifter showed off some footage when he was out there. They've been doing VR and this sort of similar to you see C-3PO and R2-D2 there, but now this time we're seeing them in augmented reality and magically. Of course, we still don't know much about the headset. They claim this is all filmed right through the headset itself. We don't know what the field of view is, though. It reminds me of something like HoloLens when we're watching those videos, but it's pretty epic. You see, the table where the battlefield is, where all the holograms are, and it's sitting on top of the real-life table, and R2-D2 goes behind the real-life table, and it looks pretty much perfect. I'm kind of blown away. The AR I've tried is the Meta headset. I was pretty blown away just because I've never tried any AR, but this stuff is just. I live in Florida, and I need to get into the Magic Leap office.
I know.
That's where the magic really seems to be.
So this is going to be interesting. There's going to be Magic Leap people and people from ILM X Labs that are going to be working together in the same building. So it's going to be pretty wild to see all the content that they come up with. So one interesting thing is the person who kind of hooked up the connection between Magic Leap and ILM X Labs was John Gaeta. He went there in 2014 and tried it out, and then about a year later, I think sometime last year, he brought all the executives, like the CEO of Lucasfilms, and I think that when they saw everything last year, they were sold on it, and that brought today's announcement, because they've already said that they've been working together for about a year already. So I thought the announcement was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, in order for them to do that kind of a partnership, setting up an office where they can work together, they must have been blown away by the demo that they saw down in Florida. The whole executive team.
Right. We've heard second-hand opinions on Magic Leap. We've sort of met in VR or in real life people that have tried it, and they do claim that it's bee's knees. It's that it's that mind-blowing. It works. So crazy.
Yeah, the thing that I keep hearing, what I'm assuming that they're, the reason that they've gotten the $1 billion in investment is that when they bring people in to try it, like investors and such, they have this room, like it's a conference room, and they have, I think, like before everyone walks in, or maybe during when they're sitting in there, they put the Magic Leap headsets on, and then they bring in a cup of coffee and there's a virtual cup of coffee, and they are asked to determine which one's real and which one's fake, and I think that is what kind of sells it.
Whoa!
Because they can't determine the difference.
It's that good, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's super crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I'm
gonna
be
so
fooled in reality with all that. Yeah, what's going on and what's the next story?
So in some other news, in a quiet update from Valve last week, they enabled support for Oculus Touch controllers in Steam VR. This allows developers that have Oculus Touch developer kits to safely test their content with the use of Steam VR's Chaperone system. A release date or pricing for the consumer version of the Touch controllers hasn't been announced yet, but we're most likely to hear more about that at Oculus Connect 3 this fall.
Yeah, I'm really... it's great to hear so many developers have Oculus Touch. Of course, there's not anything for them to test really and to see other people's content. And there's no
there is
chaperone.
now.
Yeah, exactly. Now, now that's exciting. I'm really glad to hear that is the case now. It's always awesome to hear how much Valve are able to, has opened things up and being able to play all the Oculus stuff on HTC Vive is pretty awesome now. Be able to play that on Oculus Touch. I'm really excited for the Touch. So I love hearing this stuff.
Yep, I'm getting it too. So we both tried it at the SVR Expo, and it was for me it was really ergonomic. Like you put it on, and when you're using it, you almost like forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really sweet. I wish I could feel it again. I want to judge it more. I got to try it at Oculus Connect 2, and
SVR Expo. Oh yeah, you tried it there too. That's right. You tried it twice.
Right, and what I was able to do, like with Toy Box and stuff, was much more in depth than at SVR with what were we playing, basketball or something? Yeah.
Yeah, you played basketball. I did the football.
And that was great too. That was. I always complain about the Vive controllers, which I have in my hand right now. So knowing about Oculus Touch coming, I think that's going to be a huge deal. I think that's really going to start. I don't know. It's not. It's going to really elevate Oculus. I think they haven't been able to kind of keep up with Vive, with the room scale, and with the motion controls, and being such a big deal. Finally, when people get them, I think it's going to be worth the wait, or no matter what, that's when they're coming out. And if they're good, they're good. And as we've tried, they are very good. And yeah, fitting over your hands. I really like the double trigger. I like, my index finger on a trigger and my middle finger on another trigger. That's a really great way to pick up things and also like shoot a gun or something at the same time while you're picking it up. That brings me to a story that I was reading off of VentureBeat, and it was by author Jeff Grubb, and he was talking about, the title of the article is PlayStation's VR's weakness is the Move controller. So it seems to be a good time to kind of bring up a little bit there. At E3 last week, there was a lot of great stuff from PlayStation VR, a lot of great content. But this article really made me think, like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about Move too much. And if Move isn't very good, then that's going to really hit a big wrinkle in the whole PlayStation VR ecosystem, and whether I'd want to spend my money that way. So there's a couple of things that he said about Batman, about Final Fantasy that I thought were worth mentioning. He said about Batman Arkham VR, required him to calibrate his weapons. So, they're not as reliable. They require calibration. In one challenge, he threw his batarangs at a target, and it didn't matter how he threw them. They always went straight to the target. Sort of had that. I know that not all the games on PSVR have that Wii-ness to it, where it kind of takes away the realness of kind of actually matching up one-to-one, but that sounds a little, that doesn't sound good. It doesn't bode well. And also the Final Fantasy VR experience, played right after Batman, emphasized why a developer like Rocksteady might not trust Move in the Square Enix experience, which is nothing more than a shooting gallery. The real-world Move and in-game gun never sync up. So he'd point directly at his target, a behemoth, and his gun would fire up to the right. So I'm just really worried about PSVR's motion control solutions. I'm very excited for Oculus Touch. My prediction is that this is what's going to really sell the Oculus headsets and whole system that they're promoting, is because of how good the touch controllers are.
It could be just that it's software related, these issues, because
Right,
I've tried the PlayStation VR out twice, and I remember the first time I tried it, which was a little over 2 years ago now, and they had kind of forgot. I got to spend a long time in there. They kind of maybe forgot I was in there because they were like chatting with other people or whatever. Plus, there wasn't a whole lot of people at the very first SVR Expo. There was like 400, so the lines were not very long. So I got to spend a lot of time in there, and I specifically remember that I was moving the controllers like as fast as I could, whipping around the swords and everything, and I didn't lose tracking at all. So, and then the second time,
calibration or
yeah, I mean maybe it's
not being reliable.
Maybe these experiences that he's talking about are made by third-party developers and not actual Sony, because the stuff that I've tried were all made by Sony, and on the first time I tried it,
is a good example, right? Like I can tell that looks pretty good in the videos. People's experience reports were not reporting that there was a problem with the motion controls. So
right, yeah, I tried that, and yep, I didn't experience any issues with that. So
it was
I'm
accurate to where you're shooting, right? Similar to like hover junkers. Like if you're not very good at your aiming, it's not going to hit.
Yeah, I mean it was probably slightly assisted, but I mean, moving the gun around, looking at your hand and moving the gun around, I didn't have any issues that I could remember.
I guess for me, I haven't been able to try it, so I don't have any like direct. I have this sort of like, really PlayStation Move's going to be good enough, just based on because it's been out. It doesn't feel quite as something that maybe is innovative. It hasn't really changed, or we see that there's a PlayStation gun aim out that, is that really going to solve the and be awesome as well. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Maybe, Jeff from this article, he just had maybe it's just those experiences don't live up to it, which is, then it's sad in its own self if Batman and Final Fantasy don't seem to be as fun as maybe they could be.
So this was going to be last on my list, but we'll just segue into it since we're talking about PlayStation VR, and since you haven't had a chance to use it, this possibly could help you. So if you're inside the U.S., you'll be able to demo the PlayStation at Best Buy and GameStops. To find a location near you, go to PlayStation.com, click on PS4, then PlayStation VR, and lastly, try PSVR. Then input your zip code to see the locations nearest you. It also says to check back very soon. Canadian locations will be available soon. So this is an updated list because I had checked, I think, like a few months ago, and there was no stores like in New England that were going to be showing listed for showing it. And now there's multiple locations that I can go to within a 20-mile radius. So people should definitely check to see if they can try it.
Well, that's great.
Near them.
I hope they have Move out there so I can make my own judgment. That's exciting.
Yeah, I think that most of actually one of the demos I did was with the PlayStation 4 controller, but most of the demos they show are with the Move.
Awesome.
So let's see, what next? Two of the leading 360-degree content creation studios announced multi-million-dollar funding this week. The LA Times reported that Montreal-based Felix and Paul raised $6.8 million, led by Comcast, and also include Caisse de dépôt et placement du Québec, LDV Partners, and current financier Fee Group. Chris Milk's studio received $12 million in funding, announced on his blog that they closed a Series A funding round led by Anderson Horowitz with participation from 20th Century Fox. In addition to the funding announcement, Chris also announced the rebranding of Verse. Chris said, quote, "People reading our name often don't know how to say it, and people who don't know how to say it often don't know how to spell it when searching for it." Or people who do know how to say it often don't know how to spell it when searching for it. Turns out these are not great features for a company name. Chris later went on to say, "So we're putting a rest to our old name and taking a new one that better represents who we are, what we stand for, and what we're working towards. As a bonus, maybe people will even be able to pronounce it." The stories of tomorrow will be fully immersive. The medium, the place where those stories will unfold, exists within our consciousness. We'll find ourselves having passed through our long-held, precious frames to live within those stories. And we'll carry the memory of those stories, not as content that we once consumed, but as times and spaces we existed within. So we're changing our new name to Within. You'll also notice that the name of our app on your phone or VR headset will change from VRSE to Within. But it'll be the same gateway to all our VR experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a good move myself. Dropping the VR and a lot of VR company names probably makes the most sense going into the future. VRChat here, it's been a sort of a struggle of, we're more than just a chat program, so maybe VRChat isn't the best name. But on the other side, so many people already know it as VRChat, so as rebranding, it's quite an initiative to do. It takes time and resources, so it's definitely been a dialogue here at VRChat, and it's interesting to see Verse going from that to Within, that they've everybody, they've been a big company and definitely known by Verse. I love the name Verse, but I totally get that it's not.
Yeah, because
friendly
if
to
you just
people.
tell someone, oh, check out Verse, and then they go to search for it and they can't find it.
But yeah, it's cool. I guess I like Within. Sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, what's kind of neat, their website is with.in.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I thought that was kind of neat. Next up, Valve Lighthouse inventor Alan Yates posted in the Vive subreddit yesterday, quote, "I was super fortunate to start at Valve right around the time Michael Abrash had begun the AR/VR research team. It was a much smaller team than it is now, and it has since grown to encompass about a third of the company. But the key individuals that solved most of the really hard technological problems and facilitated the generation of consumer VR headsets are still here working on the next generation." So Valve has over 300 employees, so that means that somewhere around 100 people at Valve are working on AR and VR. That's pretty amazing. I never thought that there'd be that many people at Valve working on it. I thought it was a much smaller team.
A third. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
I mean, that's so exciting for us that love Valve and love VR.
Yeah.
And you can only think of things like Half-Life 3, Half-Life VR, or any of these amazing, especially a single-player story, maybe not single-player, but like a narrative first-person story such as Half-Life 3 or maybe something else from Valve would be what we're dying inside for, I think. So also to note in the news, there's a great article that Make Magazine put out that talks about all the prototypes in the Valve VR lab, secret prototypes. It's a really cool look at what Valve's done over the last, 4, 5, 6 years. They have like some of their first headsets, well, not even headsets, but just like these really prototypes, like called the Susan, which had a full LCD monitor kind of pressed up against your face on a sort of lazy Susan sort of contraption that was so put over your head, so you actually would turn it with your teeth. Really strange stuff, but so cool to see the evolution. And there's early prototypes of the Vive controllers and of the Lighthouse tracking station. So yeah, seek that out. It's a Make magazine. It's called See the Secret Prototypes We Found in the Valve's VR Lab. And that's really fascinating stuff.
I actually got to see some of that stuff at Maker Faire 2 years ago. It was myself and K-Dog here, and Reverend Kyle, and our good friend Olivier. So Olivier, Alan Yates was there, and just at a little table, and had all the Lighthouse stuff, all the some of the prototypes all taken apart on the tables for you to pick up and look at, and it was quite fascinating. And yeah, so anyone could just go up and talk to them about it. Yeah, definitely check out that video. It's really interesting. Kind of like talking about the history of how the research that they're doing and how it was made.
I do love hearing, like, it's not just Valve, it's not just Oculus that we're working on this VR stuff and this rebirth of VR, but you're hearing, of course, Samsung or Sony has worked on stuff for a long time, and even like I think I'm not really sure, but like Facebook and Google and Twitter, I mean, they're all just buying in, and it's really cool to know that VR was coming no matter what. Within this decade, though, that's pretty awesome.
So the last story that I got, oh no, actually, it's not the last story I got. Second to last one. Yesterday on its YouTube channel, Radial Games announced version 1.1 of its Vive title Fantastic Contraption, with some innovative new features, including Twitch chat integration, Twitter integration, a director mode for multiple cameras, and built-in mixed reality. So no need to use OBS or green screen. So let's take a look at some of these features.
Yeah, I got a little video here.
Hey everyone, today we're launching version 1.1 of Fantastic Contraption, which is a social update, a really big package of features that we've been working on for the last few months. Now you may have seen our weekly Twitch streams where we do mixed reality, and maybe
Video's a little low.
with your friends or your family, and you want to share the experience, you want to spread the love and show everyone how amazing VR is, right? Because this is amazing. Well, this update will really help you to share your contraptions and your experiences with your family, your friends, your Twitch stream viewers, whoever you like. Now, if you know Fantastic Contraption at all, you're probably suspicious of this little eyeball in the corner. And you're right to be, for I am in virtual reality as I speak. That's right, this is mixed reality without a green screen behind me.
It's amazing, they built these tools inside their game.
Yes,
I know.
VR. I love VR. It's so great. It's so amazing. And there's some amazing things you can do in VR, even if you don't have
What are they
green
calling
screen,
that?
But the best experience, of course, is with the green screen.
You just said it.
You can actually see the
Mixed
terrain
reality?
behind me
In front
in a
screen.
boring room, right? So
Hey,
what's
how's
that
it
look like? Well, I happen to have a green
The
screen.
video is very low, and it might not be working for some of you that may have just come in, so it should catch up on the next video.
So I'll go set this up on the wall in a few minutes
Um,
to show you what
but
that
yeah.
looks like. All right, let's get this green
A
screen.
green screen as a cape is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Gotta
just
say.
using like a green towel or a blue one. I guess you could probably set it for different colors.
But man, you got it built in there. You got the director mode. You can place you can place cameras wherever you want in that environment.
Yep.
It's not just the first person, so that's amazing. You can cycle through it, live as it's happening. So that's amazing. If you're not doing first person, you'll have a few choices of avatars, such as a unicorn or frog, a sheep, or others.
Without any external software, not using OBS or anything
And it's
else
pretty
to
awesome.
composite the scene together. This is just done.
Yeah, they're doing some really innovative stuff there.
It's pretty good quality.
And it's kind of been helping out the whole
I'll show you.
community really, because they were the kind of like the pioneers of showing everyone how to do mixed reality, and they even went so far as to show all the other developers or anybody really how to do it.
You might have to go to the drop down here and
Just using OBS
you want to use.
and a green screen.
Now, if you have your own fancy capture card, or if you have some post-processing
Busted
suite
for
and
me.
you want to do something fancy,
Oh.
you still have the old method
Let's see.
available. You just go
What
to
happened
the
to Gunter?
drop it down, go to quarter
You guys see me?
display.
I see.
You can
Yeah,
actually
you guys
use
hear
the
me?
system to,
Yep, you're good.
layer
I
in
disappeared.
your own camera work
That's like Ninja.
and tweak it and tune it whatever way you see
Cool.
fit. Look at that.
So the video stopped for me. I think I'm going to go ahead and stop it, though. and
Okay, yeah, that's
just
fine.
talk about it. It's quite a long video, but really everybody should check it out. They're doing other things like you can tweet a gift right in from the application. You've added undo and redo when you're building. Of course, that Twitch integration. It's pretty fantastic. Hats off to those guys.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's what that update was. I couldn't believe all the stuff that they jammed in there. It's a really great update. I mean, I hope like other developers like take a cue from them to start doing stuff like that, because I think that having things like Twitch integration is certainly going to help people who are developers to share their game, because there's a whole lot of people out there that are going to be streaming Twitch.
Yep, you want those people streaming your stuff in the best quality and best ways. Most delightful. That's just delightful, those kind of tools. Really awesome.
So my last story today is that OSVR has announced a developer fund. From its website, quote, The OSVR Developer Fund is a $5 million growing fund initiated by Razer, designed to encourage VR content developers to support the open ecosystem. The fund is open to all developers, indie or major. To apply, major to apply. For every successful applicant, OSVR funding partners will purchase copies of their content in exchange for OSVR integration. Benefits include marketing and promotional support, showcase opportunities at trade events, hardware support, partner support, and more to be added. To apply, go to osvr.org/fund.
Nice. Love that. I have my last story that I want to read, and this one is about Adobe bringing VR video editing tools to Premiere Pro. I was reading this on the Road to VR website, and this article is by Ben Lang, and I'm really happy that filmmakers and people that are do storytelling in VR now have more tools available, and it's really starting to, I don't know, heat up, but you see these workflows and platforms for creating 360 videos, and not just monoscopic, but they're supporting stereoscopic video. You can just edit right there in Premiere. Apparently still have to use other tools to stitch them together. So I'm not an expert with this sort of workflow, so I don't know what you would use. I know Michelle Osario was talking to us about it on a couple shows a few weeks ago. We can tune into that for more info, but there's the ways to set your forward-facing position of your film. So where does your 360 video start? It's facing forward position, and it has easy ways to publish your VR videos on websites like YouTube and Facebook. There's an intro video on how to learn how to do all of this that you can find at the Road to VR's article, or you can just go to Adobe's blog and it has it there. So pretty exciting stuff. More tools for people creating those 360 videos, make it easier. Looking forward to that. Hopefully, the Mecca is getting more stereoscopic videos in, and this isn't going to, I think, really help the amateur do that yet, but it's getting more closer and closer to better tools so we can get more good 360 content.
Yeah, I think it's really good for a lot of the videographers out there, either professional or prosumer, because Premiere is kind of like the program that most people in the industry use for editing. So having these kind of tools available for people who are just getting into 360 video gives them a familiar interface for them to use, and tools that they're familiar with. So I think it's great that Adobe's finally doing this.
Yeah, they don't have to learn a different software suite or stack. Familiar tool set. Yeah, Premiere is pretty awesome. I mean, I don't think we see anything from Apple's Final Cut yet, so I'm sure they're kind of paving. This is a really unique feature, tool set for them to add. I think it's super smart.
Well, I mean, Apple hasn't really talked about VR at all yet, so or augmented reality. I mean, we know that they've got patents and they've done some job hires, but haven't really heard much of anything. They're usually a company that kind of waits and sees, and then let other companies kind of pave the way, and then they'll just refine on existing technology. So we'll probably see them in I don't know, 2 to 3 years, I think.
Yeah.
And then once they announce a product, then if it's mainstream.
Precisely. Or I mean, they got good products in my opinion. So I'm cool with the amount of controversy with walled gardens. I can't even imagine what the level would. Exclusive walled garden DRM. The whole virtual reality scene would just explode. So.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of a different there's people that are in the Apple ecosystem don't really care about that.
Sure. I mean, I was the App Store is great. I think it did a lot of great stuff for providing ways for people to find great software on their phones. I remember trying to, I think it's easier for the majority of people. So walled gardens are good. I still can get viruses on my Android phone, pop-ups just hijacking it. I'm like, what's going on? This sucks. It's like Windows.
You can get viruses on OSX too. My wife got one a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really? Wow. All right, Bob, what else? Does that wrap things up for us? Or
Yeah,
I got a couple small plug things, but anything else in news?
Yeah, that wraps up the news for me.
Cool. So, we moved today's show to Friday because John Gata of Lucasfilm of ILM X Lab, which was our first story, and working with Magic Leap. John's going to be on the show on Friday, so that's really exciting. For those that are hearing this, that show should come out shortly after you're hearing this, so that will be awesome. Check that out. And VRChat Summer Adventure starts on June 28th, so Ewan and other VRChat community members are putting together some fun stuff in VRChat over sort of like the 4th of July weekend time, so that should be fun. So hope everybody checks that out. So this has been sort of an experimental news program. I hope you guys like that. I hope everybody watching like that, get something out of this. Please give us feedback on Twitter. I'm Gunters Universe, at Gunters Universe. Bob is at Coznfx. Let us know what you think. What else, Bob? I think that's about it.
Yeah, pretty much. VRcasters is back up and running. That's one thing that I'd like to plug. And so my podcast, the Left-Handed VR podcast, is on there, and along with all the other great podcasts. So that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on vrcasters.com.
So much great podcasts there. I actually did have it in my notes to shout out to Rev Kyle. He released a podcast, I believe it was last week, episode 122, and he kind of talks about his revelations regarding the VR wars. So that's definitely check that out. And Malia's podcast, the VR Scout podcast, episode 15 came out last week, and she covers all the big E3 announcements, HoloLens, and a bunch of other great stuff. Check her podcast out too. Podcasts are awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming out and listening to the news. We'll keep bringing this to you in the future. That's pretty much it. Cheers. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Cue the music. Oh, we don't have any right now. Add it in post.
Yep.
Make it so. Number 2. Go. What happened? Did I just switch to a different chair? Like, I don't know.
You just popped out of your chair.
You did.